Hello, this is the Lord's Legion, and welcome to the best villains ever. The show in which I talk about a specific villain and talk about their backstories, abilities, greatest feats, and why I love them so much. Now surprisingly, it has been quite a while since I last touched on a Batman villain, so I feel like it's long overdue for me to cover another villain within the Batman's Rogues Gallery. And considering how we currently have the City of Bane story arc ongoing, I feel like now is the perfect opportunity to discuss the man who broke the bat. The villain who I'm referring to is, of course, Bane. So without further ado, let's begin with his backstory, and bear in mind I am going to be mainly focusing on the New Earth incarnation of Bane, even though his New 52 origin is near enough identical based on my memory. Now Bane's upbringing was incredibly brutal to say the least, as he was born to serve the life sentence of his father within a harsh prison located in Santa Prisca, Peñadoro. Bane's mother was also imprisoned with him, and by the time he reached the age of 6, he was forced to bear witness to her corpse being carelessly thrown by prison guards and pretty much getting dumped into the shark-infested waters, leaving Bane on his own against a group of criminals who would abuse him for years to come. During his years in prison, Bane carried a teddy bear who he would call Osito, whom Bane considered his only friend and guardian, and I say this in a literal sense, as Osito had a hole in his back to hold a knife that Bane would use to protect himself against other inmates, and at the age of 8, he committed his first murder by stabbing a criminal who wanted to abuse him. Over the years of spending his life at Peñadoro, Bane was capable of building himself from the ground up, as well as flawlessly adapting to the harsh environment. He does this by reading as many books as he could get his hands on, as well as building up his body in a prison's gym, and even went as far as to learn to fight in the merciless school of prison life. Over time, Bane had established himself as the king of Peñadoro prison, and rightfully so, as he was easily the most dangerous inmate in the prison. This, however, caught the attention of the prison controllers and eventually forced Bane to become a test subject for a mysterious drug known as Venom. And after all of the previous attempts being failures, Bane was actually the first test subject who survived the ordeal. And he would soon discover that the Venom drug is capable of enhancing his own strength, although he would have to take the drug at least once every 12 hours, otherwise he would suffer from debilitating side effects. Years later, Bane had managed to escape from Peñadoro alongside several of his closest friends and enforcers, and eventually made his way to Gotham City. Before he had even set foot on Gotham City, Bane was aware of Batman and had heard tales about his crusade on Gotham City. Believing him to be the next big challenge, Bane had set his ambition and decided to break Batman both physically and mentally, as he wants to prove to himself as well as everyone in Gotham that he is in fact superior to that of Batman. Now looking back on Bane's backstory, it is a massive understatement that Bane had it rough, because he was forced to serve a life sentence for the crimes that his father committed. And on top of that, Bane had to adapt to the harshest environments in order to survive. And after all of these years of building himself both physically and mentally, Bane was able to transform himself into a warrior. A warrior who is both respected and feared. As you can imagine, Bane does possess a lot of powers and abilities at his disposal, and his main source of power is through the usage of the Venom drug, in which grants him superhuman strength, speed, durability, stamina, and reflexes. Not to mention that does grant him an accelerated healing factor as well. And even without the Venom, Bane is still incredibly strong and maintains peak human condition. Or debatably, he can be classed as a metahuman, because even without him using Venom, Bane has been shown to be much stronger than a typical human. But on top of that, Bane also has genius level intellect, as well as being a master tactician. Not to mention that Bane also has photographic memory and is a skilled hand-to-hand combatant, and debatably among one of the best fighters in the DC universe. Now there's no denying that Bane has achieved plenty of incredible feats over the years, and so I feel like now is a good time to focus on some of his most impressive as well as his most insane feats. And just so we're clear, I am going to be consistent, and I'm only going to be focusing on the post-crisis Bane. For starters, Bane is capable of breaking a man's neck with one hand, as well as killing several men in a single blow. Not only is Bane capable of dodging bullets, but he can also casually dodge Batman's Batarang as well as Azrael's. Speaking of Azrael, Bane can go toe to toe against him and can even keep up despite of Azrael's gauntlets. Plus Bane was able to beat Killer Croc with relative ease, as well as infamously breaking Batman's back, which is undoubtedly his biggest claim to fame. He can also casually rip off a man's arm despite of them wearing an ectosuit, in which Bane proceeds to attack him with the detached arm. On top of that, Bane can also crush a man's wrist with nothing but his sheer strength, as well as cracking an ectosuit faceplate with one blow. Another crazy feat of Bane's is that he was able to snap a griffin's neck, as well as easily obliterating someone's skull with one punch, and can even knock out Man-Bat with one strike. Bane can also smack a knife out of Talia al Ghul's hand with relative ease, as well as being able to break through handcuffs and killing the cop before he can fire within a few short seconds. Not to mention that Bane has been repeatedly stabbed numerous times and he doesn't even react. And even despite of him being shot in both arms during one time, he was still able to fight. Plus, Bane is one of the very few Batman villains who is able to deduce who Batman is, and even his strategic mind is on par with Ra's al Ghul's. Plus there's that one time when Bane was able to beat KJ Beast into submission, as well as single-handedly facing off against the League of Assassins, even going as far as to challenge Ra's al Ghul into a duel. And lastly, during his time at Peñadoro, Bane was able to kill over 30 men in prison. And there's no doubt on my mind in that Bane's kill count is still ongoing to this very day. Now, Bane has always been a recurring villain in other mediums, such as his time in the DC animated universe. And I'm not sure if it's just because of censorship, but I never really found this version of Bane to be very threatening, because most often than not he was seen as a henchman, especially in his later appearances. We also have his New 52 counterpart, in which they are really trying to push Bane into more of a premium Batman villain than in the old continuity. And especially when you check out what's going on currently at Rebirth, because they've pretty much transformed Bane into the physical embodiment of Bruce's pain. Not to mention that we also have Bane within the Batman Arkham games, and even though they keep nailing it with all of the other villains, they can't seem to get it right with Bane for some reason. Once again being relegated into a hulking brute. And it's all the more unfortunate and baffling in that Arkham Origins of all games was the one that actually got Bane right, perfectly showcasing his tactical mind as well as his brute force. Now, in terms of live action, Bane has appeared in the final season of Gotham and was heavily revamped into being Jim Gordon's former ally. And it was pretty clear to me at least in that Bane was shoehorned into the last season of Gotham because he was probably the only major Batman villain that they had yet to use. We also tend to avoid that abomination. And lastly, we have Tom Hardy as Bane in The Dark Knight Rises. And I've gotta say, I really do like this incarnation of Bane for the most part. It was cool that he was part of the League of Shadows, and it was cool to finally see a villain who could test Batman both in terms of combat as well as intellect. Unfortunately, the film managed to find a way to ruin this character within the last 5 minutes and turned him into a jobber. Now, despite the fact that Bane is a relatively new villain within the grand scheme of things, there's no denying that he has left a giant impact within the Batman mythos, as he was the one who famously broke Batman. But unlike Doomsday, who's only really defined by killing Superman, there's much more to Bane's character than just that one feat alone, as he was able to transform himself into a warrior despite of all odds. And because of his tragic backstory, as well as the fact that he is both the brain and the brawn, and leaving a massive impact within the Batman mythos, this is why I personally believe that Bane is one of the best villains of all time. So are you a huge fan of Bane, and what is your personal favourite storylines featuring the man who broke the bat? Comment below and share some thoughts. And as always, thank you guys for watching this video. Please like and subscribe, take care and have a good one.